Hi there and welcome to Position 1 Power Equipment. My name's Adrian and today we're going to look at this P5100 SPE lawnmower. So I'm going to open the box, lay the contents out on the table and you can see exactly what you get. So here we have the cup holder which fits to the upper handles, which will show you how that's done. This is the side discharge chute. We'll show you how that fits to the mower. Here we have the battery charger for charging the battery. We shall show you how that works a little later. The unit does come with a spark plug spanner and handle in this little packet. Again, we shall explain how that works later on. The unit does come with a hose pipe connector. This is very useful for cleaning the underside of the deck when you've finished. In this packet are the various handles and knobs and fastenings that you're going to need during the assembly. Here we have the grass collection bag. There is a little bit of assembly needed, but we shall go through that later. And finally, we have the user manual. Now, I do recommend that you read this thoroughly before putting the lawnmower together. And of course, we have the main mower unit itself with its upper and lower handles, which are attached but not assembled. So I think we'll take you through that first. So we're going to fit the upper and lower handles onto the mower itself, and we're going to need the bag of fastenings to do it. So we'll take you through that now. So I'm going to lift the upper handle off the top of the mower, making sure we don't trap any cables. And I'm just going to place it to one side on this side of the bench. There we are. So now we're going to lift the lower handle up and into position. Now you'll see this hole here, the lower of these two holes, is where we want to line up the hole in the lower handle. So that's lined up near enough. I can't quite see it from my angle there. And we need to take one of these bolts. So we've got a wing nut, a washer and a bolt. So what I'm going to do is take the wing nut off and I'm going to fit the bolt through from the outside towards the inside. So through the hole, line it up with the hole in the frame, push it into position. So with that done, I'll just quickly take the one for the other side. And again, I'll put the bolt from the outer hole. Now, I'll just show you on this side, you may have to move the height adjuster to get the bolt in. So as you can see, I can not quite get the bolt in there because this height adjuster is in the way. So I'm just going to move the height adjuster out of the way, and that gives me plenty of access to get the bolt in the hole. So with the bolt in the hole, the washer on the inside, and then on with the wing nut. We can actually, now that we've got both bolts in, tighten up the wing nut on this side, and I'll go back to the original side. On with the washer first, then the wing nut. I'm just carefully moving the cables out of the way. There we are. So that's the lower handles fitted to the mower. So I'm going to take the last two of the bolts with it. So I'm going to take the last two bolts and just remove them from the hand wheels, just to make this a little easier for myself. So I've got the two bolts at hand. Now what's quite important here is that I could pick up this handle and fit it straight on here, but that in a future time may damage the cables when you fold it up. So what I'm going to do is to take the lower or upper handle and feed it through the lower handle and up into position here. What that does is allows these cables to run over the top of this bar and not underneath them. If they run over the underneath, when you fold the handles up, which would be something like this, there's a chance you're going to damage the cable, so we don't want to do that. So going from the inside to the out this time, I'm just going to place that bolt in position, and I'm being careful not to trap the cables, and I'll just put it roughly in place there. I'll get the other side, put this bolt in position, feed it through the hole from the inside to the out, and it should just about rest there. I'm going to put a washer on, put a wing nut on. I'll just nip that side. It should stay there now. Put the washer on this side and the little hand wheel. And now I can tighten up the two hand wheels. There we are. That's the upper and lower handles fitted. A little bit more to do, but we should go on to that next. So moving on, we're just going to fit these little cable tidies. You can see 3 grooves in the cable tidy, and we have 3 cables on this side. So what I'm going to do is just to get the cable tidy started with the cables inside, then just spread them out into position in the 3 grooves. There we are, and that's that cable tidy fitted. The one on the other side here has a large groove in the center. We can put the power cable in there and fit that cable tidy, and that's that one in position as well. So we're going to connect the control cables to the control handles now. You'll see there's an upper cable that comes out of the top of the orange plastic and a lower cable that comes out of the bottom. The bottom one goes on this rear and the top one goes on the front handle. So it's quite a simple operation, but to shorten the distance to be able to get this in, we can just pop the handle out of its hole in the main handlebars, feed it in, and then pop the handle back in again. And exactly the same, I'll pop this one out so that it's loose, feed the cable in, and then just pop it back into the handle. And there we are. That's the 2 control cables attached. There is a little instruction here on the card. Once you've done it, you can just cut the little cable tie and remove this instruction, but keep it for later reference. So going back to the accessories bag, we have 2 screws and this rubber switch here. Rubber switch, it's not rubber, it's plastic, this red switch, rubber switch. So going back to the accessories bag, we have 2 screws left in the bag and this key here. I'll show you the key in a little while. So I need to take the 2 screws and we're going to fit the cup holder onto the handlebars. So I'm going to start the screw into the hole on one side, and what I'm going to do is bring it up into position and just make sure that the screw goes into the pre-drilled hole in the plastic. Just get it started. And I'm going to give it a couple of turns with a crosshead screwdriver, just to make sure it's in the right place. I'll do exactly the same on the other side. Put the screw in the hole. Make sure we're lined up. Now you may have to just fiddle with the second one a little bit. There we are. Just starting. And a couple of turns. And we're in the hole. So now, being careful not to put too much pressure on it, I'll tighten that screw. It's in position. Move to the second one. Just giving it a bit of support from underneath. Nearly there. Okay, and that's the cup holder fitted. So the last item in the packaging would be this stop-start button here. This is actually a spare one, and I'll show you where it goes and how it can be removed and replaced. So when you receive your mower, this is the start button for the starter motor. It can be removed to stop anybody using your mower that's unauthorized. Obviously, as I said, you do have a spare, so you can keep one safe and keep one in your garden shed or wherever you keep your mower. But if you remove it, nobody can use the mower, or certainly not use the electric start. So there we are. We'll just pop it back in the hole. Oops, that way around. With a little hole towards the floor. And that's the start-stop button. So moving on to the grass bag, I did say there's a little bit of assembly. You'll see it has this channel here, semicircular channel. We need to fit this over the lower bar. And then again, much the same on both sides, the same scenario. So if I just get that started one end, bring it round, and just persuade it into place. It's not difficult. And there we are, that's that one on. Now I'll do the 2 side pieces. Just start one end, pop that one on, and then the final one, I'll just start at the bottom and pop that one on. And that's all the assembly we need to do with the grass bag. So you'll see on the grass bag it has 2 pins, one on this side and another on the other side. It's going to latch on those pins when we open the flap at the rear of the mower. So I'll just open the flap, and you'll see there's a little hook latch here and another one here. And the object is, when you fit the grass bag, for the pins to drop into these latches and the grass bag will locate. I'll just slowly demonstrate that. So you can see the pin drops in the hole, and that's it, the grass bag fitted. So just to show how simple it is, I'll lift the rear flap, put the grass bag in position, lower the rear flap, and that's the grass bag fitted. And to remove, lift the flap, lift the grass bag away, empty it, back on again. So fitting the side discharge chute. You'll see it has 2 little hooks here, one on either side, and that's where it fastens on the little bar I'll show you in a moment. So you'll see It's locked at the moment. We lift the tab on the top and open the chute. Now, this is the bar I'm referring to. I'll do it nice and slowly so you can see. We need to go from the underside of the bar and hook it in position, so you can see that's how it sits. Then we just close the lid, and the spring-loaded tension of the flap here holds the discharge chute in position. To remove the chute, simply lift up, and out it comes. Lower the flap, and it's locked again. So the unit does come with this bottle of 4-stroke SAE 30 petrol engine oil. Now, it's very important that we add oil to the engine before we even attempt to start it. So it's vitally important that before we start the lawnmower that we put engine oil in the engine. It won't run for very long if you don't. So to remove the dipstick, we can simply pull it out of the hole with a twist. Now, the dipstick has a low, L, and H for high oil levels. We need to keep it between the low and the high, but ideally always on the high. So that bottom hole would be the critical position where there's no engine oil in it. So we need to put engine oil in until it comes above the upper of the two holes, but ideally somewhere between the upper hole and the H level here. So ideally about this position, let's say here. So I've got this jug which I use for lawnmowers. So I would decant the engine oil that comes into this jug and then pour it into the filler neck. You don't have to do that. You can do it straight from the can. So when you're putting the engine oil in, we'll cut and start again. So when you're putting the engine oil in, take your time. Do it very slowly because it will back up in the filler neck. So give it time to run down the filler neck and into the bottom of the engine. So keep going, small quantities at a time. And then using the dipstick, we won't push it all the way in. We'll push it into there without pushing it in that final bit there. So we're just going to push it into that position and we're going to dip the oil. And again, as I said, we need to be up above the level of this top hole. Obviously not right up the dipstick up here somewhere, but somewhere around the line at the center of the letter H that's printed on the dipstick. But take your time, pour it in a little bit at a time. Give it time to run down into the engine before dipping it. And when you get it to that point where the oil level shows on the dipstick by the H, that's the engine oil filled. And again, push the dipstick in firmly when you have completed it to the correct level. Just as a side note, when you are mowing your lawn, just have a good look around to make sure that there aren't any hedgehogs lying around in the edges of the lawn or in the lawn itself before you start cutting, because we don't want to, well, for obvious reasons, we don't want to harm any hedgehogs that may be in and around your lawn. When you're fueling your lawnmower, always do it in a well-ventilated area. No naked flames, no sparks, no smoking. Just be wary that it is a very flammable liquid. So the fuel tank is here. We undo the fuel cap anti-clockwise. It does have a little retainer, which you can take it right out. And just give it a squeeze and it'll go back in. That prevents you losing the cap. So regular unleaded fuel, the E10 is fine. And fill the fuel tank. Don't fill it to the very, very top. Leave perhaps an inch below the filler neck and fill the fuel tank up. Once you've filled it up, replace the cap by turning it clockwise. Make sure it's firmly down. And if you do spill any fuel, make sure that you give it plenty of time to evaporate or wipe it up before you think about starting the lawnmower. And on another note, should the lawnmower run out of fuel while you're using it, give it adequate time to cool down before refueling the lawnmower, because you have hot exhausts and all sorts going on here that may ignite the fuel should you spill any with a hot engine. So with the hose pipe connector, you'll see that the male part of it is here. When you finish using your mower, you can connect up a hose pipe with a quick release connector onto the deck, run the hose pipe, and you can have the engine running and just let it run on idle, and it will help towards cleaning the rubbish from underneath the deck, all the grass trimmings and what have you, and that will prolong the life of your lawnmower deck. So as I mentioned earlier, the lawnmower does come with a battery charger. Now the lawnmower does not charge its own battery, so from time to time you're going to need to recharge the battery, so look after your battery charger. There's the male plug which plugs into your normal 13 amp outlet, and then you just plug in the plug into the side of the battery itself, and there we are. We will plug that in and probably charge it for 8 hours before first use. So your lawnmower does come with a single point height adjuster here. Now you'll notice that the lawnmower deck is very close to the ground here, and by pulling it outwards from the mower we can lift it up, and that would be the highest position. As you can see, the ground clearance has changed, and it has several positions where you can set it to cut the correct height of grass. So there are 4 controls all up at the operator end on the handlebars. This one here is the throttle for the engine. So right back is slow or tick over for the engine. The blade will still rotate, and as you push it forward, the engine will go faster and faster. Now you'll see the little choke symbol here. If you push it all the way forward, that will set the choke to the on position, so the engine is ready to start. So this would be the position you would use with a cold engine that you'd need to have it in to start the engine. Once the engine has started, just drop it back just a little bit. That'll turn the choke off, and the engine will be now revving at maximum RPM. And again, pull it back to slow it down to a tick over. So this rear handle here is the drive, and this handle, when you push it forward towards the handlebars, will engage the drive. So as it stands with the engine running, we'll go into this handle next. When the engine's running, when you pull this handle forward, the drive will engage and the mower will pull away. If at any time you release this handle, the drive will stop. So this front handle is the OPC, or Operator Present Control. And unless this handle is pulled, the engine won't start. So to start the engine, you pull this handle back. That allows a spark to the spark plug. For a cold engine, we would pull the throttle right forward to the choke position, and then we'll push the start button here and the engine will start. Once started, we'll drop back to turn the choke off, and then at any time you want to stop the engine, release this handle and the engine will stop. So I'll just show you the start button next. So the electric start button is here. Simply push the button in and it'll crank the engine over, ready to start. So the last thing, we got this little pigtail on the right hand side of the mower from the operator position, and that's where the recoil handle sits. So I'll just pull the recoil out now that we've got engine oil in it. If I put it to the back there and bring it round, that brings the pull starter in a much more convenient position to the operator without having to bend right down to the engine. Obviously you won't need to use the recoil start unless you have a flat battery, but it's there just in case. So this mower has 3 modes of operation. It can be used for mulching, it can have side dust. So this mower has 3 modes of operation. It can be used for mulching, it can use the side discharge, or it can use the cut and collect. So I'll just demonstrate the 3 modes. So I'll remove the grass bag. The rear flap becomes a mulching plug without the side discharge chute. So in this mode, no chute, flap closed, that would be the mulching mode. If in this mode I was to fit the side discharge, as we demonstrated earlier, then that would be the way that we set it up for side discharge. And of course, finally, without the side flap, if we fit the grass bag by lifting the flap like we showed earlier on, that would be the cut and collect mode. Okay. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit www.p1pe.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and remember, keep a lookout for those hedgehogs.